Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is pouring rain today and quite cool outside. So today I'll be working here in the greenhouse. All the trees outside got well watered. It's been raining for hours and quite heavy at times. So I think the trees will like that. They like a good heavy rain. I'm going to start today by pruning up my jade. The extensions are getting quite long. It's been growing all summer without any pruning. You can see that some of the older leaves on the plant are starting to turn yellow and fall off. That's quite normal as the branch grows and thickens up. It's nice to prune it before these leaves fall off because you can use directional pruning. You can prune just above a leaf that's facing the direction you want the new branch to grow in. So it's kind of nice to have those older leaves. Once they've fallen off, you rely on looking for leaf scars for your directional pruning. I'm looking at the tree from the distance now and just looking at the overall styling of the tree. This succulent, I don't want like a flat sort of shallow umbrella canopy. That's more of a tropical tree look. Most succulents have almost a ball form or a more rounded form to them. So I think I want to prune it kind of to a rounded profile and maybe a little more rounded than I do on most of my tropical trees. I'm going to use the blue scissors to establish the overall profile of the tree, and then I'll go in and do a more detailed pruning, bringing it back just a little further using directional pruning, picking the leaf direction that I want the branch to grow in. So here I go. With the profile pruning, I always like to start by establishing the height of the tree first. And I think in this case, the height isn't too bad. I just need to prune a little bit off the top and then round it down. So here I go with the blue scissors, establishing my height first. I could go a little lower. I think there's quite good, and then I'll round out the sides. So here I go, kind of rounding it out from all directions to create almost a spherical shape to the tree. How is that looking? I could maybe go a little shorter at the sides. I think that's looking more spherical. Yeah, I think that's a good overall profile to the tree. I think it still has that succulent tree form, but it's neatened up and those new shoots are shortened back quite a bit. I've got the overall profile of the tree in check, so now I'm going to start the detail work, pruning for direction on the end of each branch, and I'll clean up all the yellow leaves. So I'm just looking at each branch. This one is pruned to a leaf that's facing outwards, which is good. I will remove the leaf on the inside just to lighten the canopy up a bit. You can see on this branch there's a branch that's kind of crossing or not flowing towards the outside. I think it's okay in this case, but I will prune it. I'll redirect it so it's coming out, fanning out more towards the front. This one can be shortened back to these leaves. So just a little selective directional pruning. I think that's got all the branches pruned for direction. So now I just need to clean up all these yellow leaves. The yellow leaves would fall off naturally, but they just look a little unsightly.
It also helps get a bit more light down to the lower part of the branch, so you might get a little more branching. So I'm just cleaning up the older leaves off the branches. Sort of like almost a partial defoliation. Yeah, these are just falling off, these older leaves. They were ready to come off. That just happens because as the branch grows thicker, the leaf starts to lose contact with the live tissue as the branch expands in diameter, and they just get old and fall off. So this species of jade it's one of the more difficult to grow in a cool climate. It's quite common that they totally defoliate themselves in winter. And I'm not sure, I've tried all kinds of different techniques. More light, cooler temperatures, more watering, less watering, and they just don't seem to be happy no matter what I do. It just tends to naturally defoliate itself, and I just, leave it bare. I don't water it once the leaves have fallen off, and then in spring it starts to grow again. So it may be just sort of the natural life cycle of this plant, that it needs that dormant period of rest to build up its energy again, because once spring comes, it always seems to grow really nicely once again. Okay, so I think that's cleaned up quite well. Oh, there's a insect on it there. It looks like a spider's nest or something. Well, I will have to spray that, I think, just in case it's mealy bugs.
I've got my mixture of Dawn dish soap, 1 part Dawn dish soap to 40 parts water in my insecticide spray. So I will spray this area that had some white on it. In fact, I'll spray the whole tree just to be safe. Spray from underneath a bit. That should do. I'll let that sit for a few minutes, then I'll rinse it off. And I'll rinse it off quite thoroughly too. It's time now to give the tree a rinse, so here I go. Rinse all that soap off the tree and out of the soil. Okay, that's a good rinse. I just realized when I was spinning the tree around that I've been showing you the back of the tree. So this is the front of the tree here. The trunk line comes towards you. So that's the tree. It's pruned up, ready to grow once again. With any succulent, after you water them thoroughly, you should try and get as much water out of the pot as possible. So I usually tip them up and try and drain all the water out of the soil I can, so they're not sitting in wet soil. You want the soil to be damp throughout the soil. You don't want it just wet on the surface and dry on the bottom. You want to thoroughly water the tree and then just hold it up, or keep the tree on put a block of wood under here to keep it draining. Drain as much water out as you can, and then your succulents will stay really, really happy. All my trees are doing really well this year except for one, and that's my baobab style jade. I'll show you a close-up of it. Here is a look at my jade, and this is the one that I scarred the trunk up. It was the first time I had tried scarring the trunk on a jade, and the tree recovered really well. I pruned it, scarred the trunk up, and it regrew and was looking super healthy, and the branches were extending. I gave it a second pruning then, and after that I noticed that it wasn't greening up again very quickly. I got, there's a little leaf here, and I noticed something was wrong. So I turned the tree around, and I noticed there was mealybugs on this side of it. They had built a nest on the side of the thing. There's all these cotton balls. And so I sprayed the tree, and
and I've been spraying it quite regularly, and it just hasn't started growing yet. And I'm kind of, I hope I don't lose the tree. I'm hoping, like, it's still firm, but it's just not looking real healthy. This branch is still nice and plump. Well, no, it's not. It's not real plump. This one, that one's fairly firm. The front branch here looks like it's dried up and died. So I don't know if this tree is going to recover now. I've never had mealybugs before until, in the winter in the plant room I had them. And I hear they're really tough to keep under control. So yeah, I'm very sad. I don't want to lose this tree, but I better respray it again just as a double, just to be sure it doesn't have any more mealybugs on it and they don't spread to other trees. Okay, I'll rinse that off now. Yeah, at first when the leaves weren't coming out, I thought, oh, am I watering it not enough? So I kind of increased the watering a bit, and then that wasn't helping. I thought maybe it needs more heat and sun, so I kept it outdoors for a while, and that wasn't helping. So yeah, I don't know what's the fate of this tree. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping my baobab style jade makes it. If it doesn't, I have another one on the go over here. That old cutting from Connor in the baobab style. And I also have one in the polyhouse. I'll show you that one. Here in the polyhouse, I have another jade that I cut back severely to create that baobab style. It's looking quite nice and healthy, doing really well. So I have a few others. I'll keep experimenting with the trunk scarring, which worked really, really well, and the tree recovered quickly from that. Yeah, but then that second pruning, I don't know, that, and I think the mealybugs just did it in. The next tree I'll be pruning up today is my Acacia that I grew from a seed. It's been growing all summer and it's grown quite tall, so I'm going to prune it back, hoping someday to create that flat top canopy. I want to prune these new extensions or branches back to about this height, so I'm looking for leaves that are fanning outwards. So on this trunk you can see there's a nice one there, so I'll prune just above that and I should get a new branch growing in that direction, the same direction as the leaf, because there's a dormant bud at the base of each leaf. All right, here I go, big cut number one. Like that. My other major trunk line here, again, I'm looking for leaves that are fanning out coming off that trunk. I have one down low here and one up a little higher here. I'm going to prune it off here. It's a little higher than I wanted, but I think it's a good point. And then if this starts a branch out here and starts taking over, I can always prune it back further in the future. It's better to have too many leaves on it than relying on just one leaf to create your new branch structure. So then I just have this little skinny one up the center here. And I'm looking for a leaf that, again, fans outwards. I think I'm going to just take the tip off here, because I have two nice leaves here. And that's it. That's the pruning of the Acacia today. Here's a look at the Acacia now. So it comes up single trunk, divides into two, and then I'm getting more divisions up top. So I believe this is a sweet thorn Acacia. I think they get the yellow puffy flowers on them. Yeah, this was grown from a seed pod that I just picked up off the ground. in one of the conservatories in Toronto.
It has stopped raining outside, at least for now. The next bonsai or plant I'm going to be working on is my aloe, the monster aloe here. And I think I've got to make a big decision on this today. My aloe here, my aloe bonsai, is a really cool plant. It's got aerial roots, the trunks are getting woody. It's got so much going for it. The problem with it is keeping it shaped. You can see it's getting out of shape. It's getting really tall. It's getting heavy on this side of the tree. There's not much point having a tree or a plant as a bonsai if you can't prune it. And the problem with these aloes is that you have to wait until like a pup forms on one of the trunks. Then you can prune it back to that pup. Otherwise, you're just left with it growing taller and taller and taller. And that's just no good. I mean, I don't want to grow this into some big giant aloe that, I can't manage. So I've got to try bonsai techniques out on it. I've tried that approach, waiting for the pups to form on it, and it works occasionally. Like here's one here that has a pup. I could prune this one trunk back. But I think I've got to gamble with this plant and cut it back hard and just see what happens. I have cut branches back hard in the past and I've had them die off. I've also cut branches back hard and they live. Like even if there's the slightest green on the branch, you can cut it back and it tends to live. So I'm wondering, if I do a hard prune on this tree, it'll either die or I'll get good results and it'll get new branching and a new canopy. So that's what I'm thinking today. It's maybe do or die time for this plant. I just can't keep it growing bigger and bigger. And yeah, waiting for the pups just doesn't seem to work. Like this is exposed to the sun here and I don't have any pups growing on it. There's been no branching. So yeah, that's my my problem with this aloe, is that it's not really a bonsai if you can't apply bonsai techniques to it, if you can't prune and shape it. It's just a plant.
There's a look at that cool base on this aloe with all the aerial roots. Yeah, it's really a fascinating plant. You can see there are pups coming out down low. So I'm hoping by doing, just shearing the top off, that the aloe will survive and, become a bonsai, that it can take some pruning techniques. So I think today is the day to try this and find out what happens.
If I'm going to shear this plant off, I have to pick a height. And I'm thinking quite low would be best. If I go up higher, well, I do have some low kind of trunk lines here. There's two here. There's one in the inside here. There's one on the outside here. Maybe this one also. The one down low. I guess it would be safer to kind of take it off to this height. Maybe I better do that. At least I know something will be alive on it. If I take it back shorter, well, it might just be a dead stump in the future, and that wouldn't be good either. I do want to keep this alive. I don't want to kill it off. So, yeah, I think I'll try and keep as much of this, these low kind of trunks or branches as I can, and shear off the upper half of the tree. It's a big step. And I don't know what the results will be. I think, there's enough trunks, as I said, that it'll still maybe look good, even if all the interior dies. I hope so anyway. It's got this nice root flare, which is quite woody now. Aerial roots. Yeah. All right, let me think about it a little longer before I make my final decision if I want to do this, because it is a beautiful plant just the way it is. It's just getting large, and it's only going to get larger, especially if you take good care of it, water and fertilize it. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Okay, let me think about it. I've been thinking about my aloe. I don't want to lose this plant. I think it's really cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try pruning back what I can to a, some green back budding or pups. Do as much as I can on the aloe and see what it looks like. And if it still looks bad, I'll prune some of the taller ones back, and I'll probably lose those trunk lines. But I'm hoping there's enough that it still looks good. And maybe it'll look better with it opened up, a little more space between it, so it's not just a big kind of crowded clump of growth here. That's the plan. So I'll look at each trunk individually, prune it back as far as I can, and then have another look at the plant and see if I have to take further steps thinning it out. All right, here I go. I'm going to use my bypass pruners to lob the tops off. So I'll start here. I have a pup coming out on this trunk line, which I think, I pruned it back to a pup up here before. So I can prune this one back. Let me just remove this leaf that's in the way here so I can get in there. So here, the trunk line comes up. Here's the new pup or branch growing off. Now these are very fragile. You can wiggle it. These pups are designed that they break off and then they root into the ground and start growing again. They're not designed as, true branches on the tree. However, once you prune the top off, they do take over as the trunk line, and they become quite firmly attached to the trunk line. So I have to be careful not to knock these pups off. And I'll prune just a little bit higher. I just noticed that there's a pup growing in towards the center here, just a little higher up. So I'll keep that one, and I'll prune this trunk line back to here. So here goes the first cut. Taking the top off. Wasn't that significant a cut, but it's a step ahead. Where's another one? Just looking to see if there's any other trunk lines that have pups down lower or growth down lower. I'm not seeing any yet. So here's an example of a trunk line here that I hard pruned back, and it's still alive. It died back to here, and there's a bulge here, which I don't know if that will form a new pup or a branch, or if that's just a root nodule growing an aerial root. But I can take the dead wood off like that, pruning it back just back to the living part here. Yeah, so there's not a lot of places I can prune this. If I trim this leaf out of here, I can see in here I have a trunk line that's dividing into three. So I can prune out the vertical one. So here I go. There's that one gone. And it opens it up quite a bit in here, which is always good. I'll prune out some of these leaves that are kind of crossing the interior, just to clean it out a bit so I can see what's going on a little easier. Yeah, so this trunk line here was very successful in branching.
kind of nice. Take this leaf off on the inside here again so I can see what's going on. Yeah, so that theory of taking it back to the pups isn't really working very well. So maybe I'm going to have to go back to my original plan of just shearing it and see what happens. It's very scary. And if I do that, I don't think, you know, I said maybe to this level. Well, we'll do that. We'll keep some of these lower ones and I'll hard prune off these upper branches. So here I go. I'm going to do some hard pruning here and just see what happens. So that trunk line is gone. This one, and I'll prune them all off kind of the same level, creating an umbrella shaped canopy, hopefully. And again, you know, this might be just killing off all those trunk lines. I don't know. And I looked on the internet to see if I could find anyone who's hard pruned aloes, and I couldn't find any information on that. They all just tell you you can tip prune them, keeping some green leaves on, and that's about it. So, you know, they're not exactly a commonly used plant for bonsai. So now I have one coming out here. This one I will just prune the tip off. It's low enough that I think I can keep this trunk line as part of the canopy. This one, I don't know, that's getting too tall. I'll have to prune it back. Now this one in here, again, too tall. I'll have to prune the top off it. Here's this tall one coming up the side. I do have a pup way up here. But again, it's just too high. So off it comes. So you can see that one had a couple of pups coming out the side. And you know, not growing out on the outside of the canopy where it gets light, more on the interior, which is a bit strange. This one I'll try just reducing back. This one I'll try reducing back. I may have to cut it further in the future. I'm trying to keep this plant alive. I'll take the top off this one. This one does have a pup up here, so I'll keep that. Now, I have a tall one going up the middle here. I'll have to prune that off short. Like that. This one has a pup here. I'll take the pup back. Taking the tip off. This one, yeah, it's a little tall. I'll take the top off it and see how it's looking. Leaving a bit of green on it. This one too, I can take the tip back. Now there's a tall one here going up the middle. I'm going to have to hard prune that one. I'm just going to take a leaf off here on the inside and then I'll hard prune this one back. This one's got to be taken back further. So the front of the tree is here. Let's just step back and have a look at it. Maybe this is enough pruning on it. I'm not sure. Let me step back. Here's a look at all the branches I've pruned off so far. Some over here. But you can see there's lots of green still left on the plant, but it's definitely going to survive, and it's reduced in height a fair amount. Here is a look at the aloe now. So I've kept, all the good features on it, the aerial roots and kind of thick trunk. It's definitely shorter. I think I'm going to leave it as it is and just see what happens. Now I'm wondering if I should seal the cuts up with rubber cement. I think I should. I think otherwise they'll just dry out slowly and die back. So I'll seal the cuts up. All right, here I go. Sealing my cuts with my stringy rubber cement. I think even if I lose some of those trunks that I kind of hard prune back so there's no pups and no foliage on them, there's enough living trunks that the aloe will continue to look good into the far future. And maybe this is the best pruning you can do on them, just periodically thinning out trunks and hoping for more pups. Keep your trees healthy and in good light. And overall, I'm really happy with this aloe as a bonsai. I've enjoyed growing it from a small little aloe plant into this kind of giant monster with aerial roots. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting species to grow as a bonsai. The next tree I'll be working on is my Russian olive. This is grown from a seed by Derek of the Toronto Club. And I've already pruned this tree twice this summer, and it needs a third pruning now. So here is a look at the tree. So it's got some good long extensions on it, so we'll be pruning those back. So I'll prune to leaves that are facing outwards. So I'll prune this one back here. On this growth, I've got this one facing outwards. This one faces towards the inside, but I've got nothing else, so I'll prune to that one that's facing outwards. Like that. I've got one out the back here. Yeah, I think I'll have to prune it off to here. Like that. I've got a few more branches that have extended here, so I can prune this one back to... I've got a downward facing leaf here, and then I've got two leaves coming horizontally. I've got to decide what's more important. Do I want this branch growing downwards or horizontally? I think horizontally, so I'll prune the tip off. I think if I prune to that downward facing leaf, the branch would just be too long. This one back to here. I've got some extensions down here. I'll prune it off to here. There's a little branch here I can prune back here. Using directional pruning. I've got one growing straight up off of this lower branch. I'll prune the tip off. I'll keep it for now. Redirect it so it's not continuing to grow straight up. This one can be pruned back to here. This one to here. I don't know if I need to do any more pruning. I don't think so. I think that's got it in check. I'm wondering if this apex is too tall here. I think it is. I'm going to prune it back. I've got a leaf coming in the front and one to the back. And even this one's a little tall, kind of straight, the branches. I could prune it back to this leaf out the back here. I think I will. So these two divisions aren't the same length. Now, I'm looking, there's a branch here. You can see this trunk line or branch line comes up and it divides into two here, but there's a third branch on the inside that's very vigorous and it's not growing in good direction. I'm going to take it right out. Get my scissors in there. There we go. Yeah, that's better. It cleans up this area quite nicely. And then there's a third branch growing out here, growing in towards the tree. Take that out too. Like that. I saw a little white fly flying off of this. This really attracts white flies. I'm going to take this back. And maybe even this one a bit more. Just a little long. I'm doing sort of detail pruning now, looking at the structure. I'm not really liking this lowest branch here. I think the nicer divisions are up top. There is a bud here. I could prune it quite, prune it off short. Don't know if I want to do that. Maybe just shorten it back to here. That looks a bit better. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's it on this Russian olive. It's in one of these root maker pots, and it's very tippy. So I'll be glad in spring to put it into a more of a bonsai pot. I think give the roots a chance to grow. But yeah, a very attractive tree considering this was a seed, grown from a seed, and it's only, I think, this is maybe its third, maybe fourth year. So it's developing really, really well as a small bonsai. If you wanted to grow this into a large bonsai, well, you'd have to let it grow more, put it in a slightly larger pot and grow it. But I think it makes a nice little tiny bonsai. It certainly ramifies nicely, and it's a vigorous grower. It's got a lot of good things going for it. Here's a close-up look at the tree now. I'll just rotate it around. So some really good branching happening on it. It's getting a nice structure. The trunk's starting to get some bark, so yeah, it's looking quite nice as a bonsai. Because I noticed it had some whitefly on it, I'm going to spray it with the soap and water. So here I go. And now I'll rinse it off. And back on the bench it goes. And now for something completely different. I've got this model. It's a metal model of a Volkswagen Beetle. And I've been leaving it outside hoping, the paint fades and it begins to look like an old wreck. Because eventually I want to grow either trees around it or trees within it, kind of growing out various places to look like, an old beetle that's abandoned in the woods. The paint hasn't really faded much. It's faded a bit, but not much. And I've left it outside all summer. I think it would take, well, probably 20 years before it started kind of cracking and peeling like a real car. So I'm thinking instead of that, I think I'm going to do some burning work on it, where I kind of heat it up and burn the paint. I think that'll look quite good. I don't want it to look like a Dub City Beetle. So these wheels, it'll sit on the ground without wheels. I think the bumpers are okay. They're plastic, but they should age okay. The plastic glass should age okay. The interior's a little modern, so that might get burned out too. Yeah, and the paint job is, they never sold a Beetle with silver sides and a green top. At least, I've never seen one. So I think burning the paint off will be quite convincing. So I'm wondering what I should do. It's a tough decision. I don't want to just light it on fire because then, I'd lose all my plastic. I don't know if the doors are plastic. No, the doors aren't plastic, but the interior is, but that could be burned out, I guess. There's some plastic trim, like all my bumpers and lights. Plastic would all burn away, which still might look okay. I've got my Dub City exhaust here, which is definitely not stock. Yeah, so to look like an old Beetle that's abandoned in the woods or something, it's going to take a bit of work. I guess if I, burn out the windshield, the wipers are plastic, the windshield's plastic, and the trim around it is plastic. So maybe it would look good if I burned away all the plastic. Yeah, so what I think I need a blowtorch. Like a butane torch so I can burn it. The model does come apart. There's a screw here and a screw here. So maybe that'll be the first step, is to take the bottom off, which is all plastic. And maybe, I can get rid of the wheels and the bottom and the exhaust all in one disassembly process, and we'll see what's left over. All right, I've got my screwdriver. I'm going to try and take this apart. So this planting was going to be my Chernobyl disaster bonsai planting. That was going to be the theme. There's a mosquito there. Yeah, with some radiation signs and some abandoned vehicles and everything kind of overgrown. Sort of an apocalyptic scene. Okay, there's those two screws out. I hope that's all that's holding it in. It looks like it is. Oh, maybe not. Maybe there's some in here. Yeah. Well, I don't know if my screwdriver will not reach in those tiny holes. I need like a jeweler's screwdriver to get that out. I'm not having much luck getting these screws out. All right, I think I'm going to have to break the chassis here. It's a shame, but I just can't get those out. They could even be rivets in there, I don't know. All right, here I go. Just kind of breaking it apart. I mean, I'll never use this bottom anyway. There goes that half. And here goes the front half, hopefully. Yeah, there I go. There, the front wheels are off. So I'm left with kind of the interior tub here. Yeah, these are riveted here, so I'm wondering if that was riveted also. It's unlikely, but... Okay, well, it looks much more like an abandoned Beetle now. I think that'll do. So next I want to get the torch out and start burning the paint. Now, this isn't like a metal model that would rust. This is like some kind of white metal or something. So to make it look old, I can't, strip the paint off it. It won't rust. It'll just look silvery. So I want to keep the paint on it, but make it look old. So I'm going to try lightly toasting it. I've got the torch running, so now let's try toasting the Volkswagen Beetle. So here I go. I'm going to start on the sides. Just see what happens. It should bubble. There it goes. It's bubbling now. I think I'll torch it from above. There it goes. It's bubbling away. Burning. I don't know how this will look, but the plastic sure burns. certainly heating the model up. Getting nice and hot. How hot this thing is. Oh, there's some plastic burning. Put that out. More plastic burning. Well, I think it's looking better. It kind of looks like rust spots. And maybe with a bit of paint, it'll look even better. Windshield out of it. Now I gotta torch the interior. Doesn't look very realistic, that blue and white seats. That looks better. Just gotta get behind the dash here. Yeah, that's looking better. Yeah, I think with some rust-colored paint, I think it'll look quite realistic. It's got the texture on it now. These front fenders aren't coming up very good. I think I've got to heat them up more. Not sure what's going on with them, but get the silver off the plastic. That looks better. I'm still not happy with this dash. That comes out. There we go, got that fender. Ah, the bumper just came off anyway. But this fender is taking its time. Oh, my torch just went out. Okay, well, maybe that's enough. It's looking pretty good, actually. Let me just cool it off in the water here. I'll give it a spray. Yeah, that's definitely good and hot, eh? Cool it down. Oh, that turned out a nice color. Look at that hood. That came up really nice. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, so there's my Beetle. Look at that hood, turned out really good. Turned a nice color. Yeah, so I think if I get some rust colored paint and make streaks coming down from these rust bubbles, it'll look very, very authentic. It's still silver on the sides, but I think that'll be okay. Again, some rust-colored paint could kind of make that look a little better. Now, I don't know if this interior is going to fall right out. No, it's still in there. I'll keep it. Oh, it's just warm now. Do the doors still open? That would be cool to have the doors open. Maybe they're... Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, so the door's still open. I may have to burn that interior out a bit more. You can still see the blue on the seats. Let me do that. I can put the remains of the bumper up front, lying on the ground. So let me start the torch up again and continue. Got to get the back seat in here. There it goes. Just spray it with water. The interior door panels too. You see there's some blue there I want to get rid of. Going through the rear windows here. Get down low here. That's better. Good. I like that door. This door could use a little more work here. Especially at the bottom. There. And a bit more around this rear fender here. Okay, I think that's good. Torch is going off. Cool the model down. Maybe that's my thumbnail there. Something you don't normally see on a bonsai video. Well, I'm really happy with the results. I'll rotate the beetle around so you can see what I did to it. I think it looks so cool. I'm really pleased. I mean, that's an abandoned beetle if I ever saw one. And it's a split window bug. Even the interior looks good. It looks like it's kind of half burned out and half, you know, just weathered by nature. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm really liking it. So the plan is to grow, you know, trees around it and bushes and make sort of a diorama. Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, just a few streaks of rust would look good and kind of add a bit more realism. It looks really good the way it is, though. I'm very pleased with it. Yeah, that is cool. I'm just looking at my pots here. I do have this nice Japanese oval kind of landscape pot down here. Here's a look at my two Japanese oval shaped pots, and the color is quite a good match with the beetle. It would certainly kind of tie the pot color with the beetle. So I don't know which size would be better. In this size pot, the larger one, I could have lots of trees and landscape. In the smaller one, you know, the focus would be more on the beetle. It would certainly highlight it more. I'm thinking the smaller one. I'm thinking this looks good. It focuses on the beetle. In this one, I think the beetle gets lost. I think it, you know, that's the focus of the planting with the trees growing up around it. I think the smaller pot would be the one I'll plant the beetle in and the trees. So I've got the beetle, the pot, and now I need trees. Originally, I was thinking of these Siberian elms, which are here. Now, the only trouble with those is they didn't do very well this year. Some of them lived, I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and the rest died back. And they didn't look very good in spring. They look really unhealthy. So, I'm not sure I'll use those. They might be good. Maybe a mix of trees, some Siberian elms, and something else. I do have the boxwoods here, but they're not the right scale. They wouldn't look right. You know, it would need a smaller scale beetle to kind of match the look of this tree. So I can't use the boxwoods. They just wouldn't work. Yeah, I think that's all I have is those Siberian elms. Chinese elms would be good. I've only got one Chinese elm though, and it's not the right shape. It's too curvaceous for, you know, young trees that have grown up since the Chernobyl disaster. So I can't use those. Has to be something kind of straight trunk. They don't have to look like old mature trees. They can look like young trees that have grown up. I think the Siberian elms would be the best choice. I can take a lot of cuttings off them, root them, and grow them as young trees growing up around the beetle, and then develop them slowly into you know, better and better trees. So I think that's what I'll do. These trees aren't very healthy. I don't know if it's just that they've been in this container too long. I'm glad. I was going to repot them in spring and I didn't get time. And I'm glad I didn't, because a lot of them just died in spring. They didn't make it through the winter. So maybe they were just too weak going into the winter. I don't know. But there's enough alive here that I think I can make a pretty good little elm forest around the beetle. And I think a lot of them are a good size. I don't think I'll use the big thick ones. I think, as I said, growing them from cuttings will be the secret to start them off as young trees and kind of keep them under control and develop them into miniature looking Siberian elms. So I'm really excited about this project, planting the beetle and getting the moss in, and I think it's going to look really authentic and really cool. I'm really looking forward to finishing this planting. So yeah, I think it's getting dark out now. I think that'll be it for today. This video was kind of a mix of good things happening and bad things happening.
I'm hoping my jade recovers, but it's not looking really good, but we'll see in the future. I'm really excited to get this project going. My beetle's been sitting outside all summer, and I've been thinking about getting this project going, and well, it's well underway now. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.